Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Backhand Compliments. Here with Dan and the one and the only, the legendary Greeny. Hey, Greeny, how are you tonight?
Good, mate. Yeah, we're getting used to this now. We've done a few.
Yep, and I want to. I went looking, Greeny, and I found a character in English rugby of all places. So I thought I'd try on a character and give us an introduction here before we dive into story time with you. And tonight we're going to talk about the Australian Ultimate Championships, which are coming up shortly. It depends on when we release this. We're planning to release it in the week leading up to, but we're recording this before Div 2 Nationals because you're supposed to be heading off, but there's more to that story. So I'd like to welcome everyone to the sacred Colosseum of spiraling plastic, where gravity is but a gentle suggestion and sweat is the language of ambition. This is going to be the Ultimate Frisbee National Championship preview here on Backhand Compliments. It's a grand tapestry of flight, fight, and Frisbee, woven together by trembling hands of destiny and slightly over-caffeinated men in cleats. A sense of deep heat is going to hang heavy in the air. The thud of whatever the latest TikTok craze is also going to be playing in the background, and like an incense in a temple of talk. Ankles are strapped, egos are primed, and the memes are, well, I'll let you be the judge because we made them and they could be quite awful, to be honest. We'll be diving headfirst like a layout catch on Universe Point into the hearts, minds, and slightly torn hammies of the finest airbenders the nation has to offer. So prepare for tales of glory, grit, and gratuitous horizontalness. It's going to be Backhand Compliments. So, Greeny, lead us in with the story.
Do you feel like I've been led in by HG? Yes. Well, pull them up and pack them in. It is going to be excellent. So Nationals this year, 2025, returns to West Beach, Adelaide, which last saw Nationals in 2010. So 15 years. And my story, I guess, centres around the significance of that. I think foremost, we are publishing this on UltiTV, which only this weekend broadcast in 3 different places at once: France, Dubai, and New Zealand, which is quite extraordinary. What a rise in 15 years we've seen for this little company. I'm very proud of, Mike, but yourself, Dan, you were right there at the start as well. With Mike, and it all started in 2010, and just to break on the story and what did you think of 2010 and where UltiTV was heading?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like 2010 was before UltiTV had started. Mike lobbed up to West Beach and tried to record the games, and he had a horror time getting usable footage, and he kind of went away from that and was like, how do we do this? And it wasn't until the next year that I kind of met Mike, because I was young and enthusiastic, and I was like, hey man, like people tell me like you're interested in filming Frisbee, like I'd love to get Frisbee filmed, can we work together? And he was like, yeah man, come around. And so we ended up in Mike's front room of his place there at West End in Adelaide, and that was when UltiTV was born. Mike had a lot of the ideas already. The struggles he had filming at Adelaide in 2010 was the genesis of what UltiTV is today, because Ultimate Frisbee's played in a paddock. There's nothing. There's no power, there's no internet, and there's certainly no structures to get up high and to get a decent perspective on the game. So the pole cam, everything kind of started at least as far as I can tell, in Mike's mind from 2010, because he tried to stand on a car and he stove the top of his car in. Like Mike has sacrificed so much to this sport to try and get it covered.
And that's my abiding memory is this car with UltiTV and on the side, battered roof.
Well, he even put a pallet on top of the roof to try and stop it from collapsing, because it was just like this little Subaru Forester that he was driving at the time, and that was where a lot of this started from. And my role in the early days of UltiTV was being an organizer, getting out there, talking to people, saying, "Hey, we could do this. Can you help us out with a little bit of money?" Mike invested every cent that we got and then some into what turned into the pole cam, and then the streaming and the footage technology that he's got, along with replays and all the rest. And having worked for other community broadcasting organizations, what UltiTV brings is actually closer to a commercial level product, less so than a grassroots thing. Like most other grassroots broadcast organizations, they can't do replays. They can barely do a scoreboard. That's like the limit of their abilities. But UltiTV and Mike has kind of pushed the boundaries on that.
Yeah. Well, long may it last. So, and it's back again. So it got the contract now with AFTA to film a UC at West Beach. So return to where it all started. I think the other thing from the tournament itself of significance is that was the first year of Colony, which became Sunder. So they are celebrating their 15th anniversary, and also it represents the 15 years since we won. And that is Newcastle I-Beam. Won the title, beating both colonies, one in the semi and one in the final, both double game points or close enough to. I think the final might have been 2 points, but it was double game point in the semi. So a lot of significance there in the results.
Yeah, a very historic year, I think. I-Beam's first title, only title so far, and the start of that Sunder super team from Sydney that went on after that point. I don't think Sunder lost for the next 6 years or something, 7 years. They went on an absolute tear, and it was Sunder in so many of those finals, at least until Ellipsis rocked back up onto the scene.
And just to give you an idea of the dominance, talking to Jimmy Todd Hill, he's leading the way in terms of the number of titles, national titles. He's got 7 of them. Yeah. And there's a couple of players on 6. And he returns again. So he's got a chance for 8 here with Sunder Dice, assuming he's gotten over his broken thumb. But so that gives you just an idea. One player, and they've always played the 2 teams each year, has managed to capture seven titles.
And you think about some of the players that have got a national title because they went and played for Colony or Sunder. Alex Pillar, Joel Pillar-Rogers, probably most notable. Originally from South Australia and probably regarded as one of the best players that wasn't going to win a national title. He lived in Sydney for a couple of years and he played with Colony at the time, Sunder now, and he won. and Tom Toulette, at that stage, Tom Toulette had not won a title, and that was viewed as probably a bit of a travesty. But he played for Colony, now he has a couple, not just with Colony or Sunder, but also Ellipsis as well. So a very historic year. A lot of things happened in 2010, and looking forward to the 2025 iteration because it promises to be an escalation in everything we've seen. It's another year, and it's shaping up to be quite spicy, I think. Greeny, are we right to move into the...
Let's get into it, Dan. Let's not like the present.
Let's dive into this because, as per usual, we have a slideshow. And we have some memes, which is kind of fun. I did mention them, and, well, you'll have to be the judge, ladies and gentlemen at home. whether or not they're any good, because like we had fun, didn't we, Greeny? Like making them, and we gathered some from different corners of the Ultimate Frisbee universe.
Oh, I'm not sure which ones you ended up with, Dan, so I'll have to find out.
It's a lucky dip for all of us. So, I think we're going to start with a meme. In the last 20 years, the national title has been won by a team out from outside of Sydney or Melbourne twice. Until we meet again, Skeletor. And Greeny, trivia, who's the other team?
Well, that is Newcastle I-Beam, my friend.
Yeah, and there's two.
Oh, and of course, Mammoth out of Brisbane.
In what year for bonus points? 2019 for bonus points. There you go. So,
Oh, yeah.
Real dominance.
Of course, yeah. Hoss won in 2015, but they are a Melbourne team. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Up until this year, the last 20 years has been dominated either by Melbourne or Sydney. And is this the year that we see someone else win? Probably not. As we'll get into. Let's start with the defending champions of Ellipsis. Greeny, your deep dive on the boys?
On this, okay. Well, the first, we've already sort of mentioned it, but the loss of Tom Tullett is the big news for Ellipsis this year. I'll just shout out to him. I mean, obviously I've seen him grow from a teenager to be, he's going to go down as one of Australia's best ever players. And it's his game-changing ability. We know he's got great throws. He's actually surprisingly athletic, he's not the tallest or fastest athlete, but he is very athletic, but really it's about his game IQ, his ability to manage games and to win games is exceptional. And I just, if you take one little moment, I always think a game that I was there for, the 2016 bronze medal match against Canada, and Tom Tullett did a layout catch D on a hammer in a zone that was just pure instinct, game IQ, and athleticism all in the one moment. That encapsulated for me that Tom Tullett as a player. So just putting it out there, I just, I know he's finishing uni now. He's just enjoying life. He's put so much into the game that I'm not surprised he needs a break. And I expect him back.
Yeah, and the funny thing about Tom Tullett is that, that's who he's always been. He hasn't, that's who he always was. He was always the kid that could make plays, for better or for worse. And I remember him getting a layout block. I think it was in the final. It was about a head height layout block or a chest height layout block. And I was standing with some people, and people were really surprised. They were like, "Oh my God, is that Cupcake?" Like it was this big deal. And I was like, "Nah, that's Cupcake. It's always been Cupcake. That's always been him." And maybe people didn't see as much of that, while he was playing in that primary handler offensive role, but he always had that ability. And I think for this Ellipsis team, John, how do they replace a player like that? How do they change their approach so that there isn't just this enormous cupcake-size hole in their roster?
Yeah, well, they've got a ready and willing lieutenant, obviously, in John O'Keefe,
who promises to be a generational talent of his own right.
Yeah. So you've just got the heir apparent coming in. So just more on the roster. Obviously, I was actually concerned. They lost a bunch of players, including one of their captains, Tom Bissett, and the best name in Australian Ultimate, Roloff Dinkelberg, and a couple of others who went to playing in Div 2, that is the Pelicans.
Yep, Craigieburn Pelicans, new club.
Craigieburn Pelicans, we'll be seeing them very shortly. I was worried. I thought, wow, how can you lose that? Obviously, they weren't the main players, but that's, chunk of their team. I was really concerned. Ash O'Sullivan went out as coach, and they've also lost Rob Swan, and he's become coach. So he's taken over Ash in the coaching department. And, they've picked up Fraser Whitney from Fyshwick, which is just perfect. He's this great athlete. But they've got Oliver Huang, Thomas Batt, Maro Lithgow, Alex Quigley, and this, I don't know where they picked him up, Coco Main guy. Maybe they need another guy with a great name, who's just this athletic guy getting layout blocks already in his first tournament up at the Goannas Invite. So, yeah, they have just not lost a step. And it must be, I don't know how Tom Tullett sits back and feels about that, like one of the generational player, and they haven't missed a step once he leaves the team. But, yeah, they are looking super hot. And the way you know that is because they are able to win March Madness with missing all of their best players who were in the Crocs training camp, and missing other players.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's my summary of those guys, and they've got, I think, the best. So they lose one of the best players ever for Australia. They've got an emerging best player in Australia with John O'Keefe. They've got arguably the current two best players in Australia, certainly from a receiving angle.
Yep.
Rob Andrews and Sam McGuckin.
We have a meme on that.
Great.
We'll get to the meme later, but
all right,
I think, you've talked a lot about the wind in the lead up. You're expecting, Hurricane Katrina down there in West Beach. You're expecting it to be windy. Two of the best throwers in the wind, I think, John McNaughton, one, but also John O'Keefe. Being a Wollongong bred and born, John O'Keefe, the way he throws the Frisbee, I feel like good players have a defining style. Well, some players have a defining style in terms of how they throw the Frisbee. And I feel that John O'Keefe achieves an angle of attack on the Frisbee that's flatter than anybody else I've ever seen, and has this incredible ability to punch the disc. And I think in the wind, John O'Keefe plus John McNaughton,
yeah, you got
what you need, don't you?
Yeah, you got John McNaughton's on the D line.
Yep.
So there you go. There's your thrower there's your puller, and he's your guy getting it upwind or cross breeze or whatever it is that they're going to be facing. And that's another bonus for them. He's been had an injured groin, but he came back in March Madness and he's moved on. He looks pretty good. A little bit rusty on his own admission at Goannas Invite, but he's going to be key for them, in my opinion.
He'll knock the rust off. He's an experienced campaigner at this stage, and but Ellipsis on a three-peat, bit of a meme.
Well, they've sort of taken the mantle that Sunder had, or Colony, of being the best team in town, and so players gravitating towards them, and therefore, of course, you are going to be the baddies, right?
So for those tuning in on the podcast, it's the meme is at the top it says Ellipsis on a three-peat, and then it's got the English police officer guy who's like, "Are we the baddies?"
Yeah,
I think that Ellipsis have maybe taken the title of the team everyone loves to hate. I feel like Sunder have relinquished that, given that they haven't been able to beat Ellipsis the last couple of years. It adds some spice, and we kicked this around, John, and we kind of disagreed on where we thought they were going to come. You like them for first. I think they're going to fall short and come third. This is the milk or wine predictions board.
Brilliant. I love that we're different. That's a relief.
Look, I feel that a lot of my predictions I want to walk back. and this might be one of them. I'm look, just how they've prepped. How, like, I made this prediction after Gold Cup, and I thought, yep, with Tom Tullett going out, there's no way. But they then won March Madness, missing everyone. That's probably not fair on the guys who played, but they're missing their absolute top talent, and they won March Madness. Their prep has been good. They've got a bunch of people coming in. John O'Keefe is the heir apparent, and he's got some broad shoulders that is going to fill that mantle very nicely. And then John McNaughton's coming back to fitness as well. And do you think they'll get the job done?
I think so. Especially they will. I think they'll lead up the conditions no matter what they are. If my prediction's wrong and there's not much wind, they've still got a very strong game. They can put on a line that is just going to crush if they get behind. And if it is windy, they've got the throwers, but they've also got the receivers to bring them down. So yeah, that's my tip.
Next, this is the Manly Mullets. So out of Sydney, a team that took great strides forward last year, Greeny. They ended up coming. Where did they come last year?
So last year was a lot better than the year before. So they came 6th.
So they made it into the semis.
They were dead last in 2023, and then got 6th and had a memorable win against Sunder in the playoffs. And then beat. They lost to Juggers in their final game. So that's Hoss. But still beat Sunder Dice. So in the 5-8 or in the 5-8 playoff.
Yeah. And an interesting team, a young team that's still developing, still building. I think their result of 6 last year spoke well to the development that they're doing and the strides that they're taking forward.
Yeah, well, they've got 5 goannas. They've just got so many under 24s players, so clearly that's not hurting them at all. They have done pretty well. They still lost games. They lost in the Canberra Cup, they came 5th and lost to I-Beam, but also to Crank got them. A team that didn't qualify. And they lost to Chile as well. So they didn't have a great Canberra Cup, but they're also missing players. They've picked up Alfie Edgeworth, one of the many players exiting Outbreak from last year. But the key one they've picked up is Dave Andrews. And he's now become the receiver of choice for Noah Moss. I think without Jordan Richards, I feel like who's coaching this year, he's recovering from an ACL. I feel like that Noah is having to take more of the load of playmaking, as we saw in the games we covered.
Yeah, Gold Cup there. Yeah.
So that concerns me a bit if they're relying on just a single player to make the big plays. But they've got great receivers and a really deep, hungry, young team that I think is going to do really well.
Yeah, and I like the smattering of experience that they've got throughout the team. Like Ernie Zhao, Cameron Jewell, like they're both experienced campaigners that are going to help settle and calm the lads. If they start to get a little bit.
Ernie's got the swagger, right?
Yeah, Ernie's got that role, where he rolls in and he's just this gentle, unassuming guy, but he's got confidence and he can play, and he's always been that way. Love Ernie. And Dave Andrews, like you said, just a massive shot in the arm for this, like to add top-tier talent, receiving talent like Dave Andrews. Huge in for them.
Well, so, I think you got mine on that, but yeah, I had a similar sort of meme, but I get that's it. That's the new shiny thing for Noah.
And for those listening at home, it's a Top Gear meme. This one, and it's Jeremy Clarkson on the left. It's got Dave Andrews, and Jeremy's saying, "This is brilliant." But then the car on the right, Jeremy Clarkson's saying, "But I like this," and it's Noah Moss. And what's not to love about it? A young guy that's just out there playing frisbee, and he reminds me a little bit of Cupcake. He lays out, he makes big throws, and like Cupcake in his early days, he makes some mistakes as well. But there's a lot to like about Noah Moss and what he's doing, and I think for this Manly Mullets team, it's going to be a great campaign. We got stuck. Oh, I got stuck. I won't speak for you.
Yeah, well, there you go. We've come up with the same prediction, so that's interesting.
Yeah, I copied you. I did. I had no idea. I was like, look, like I wanted to put them higher, but I didn't think that going higher is going to involve them winning a quarterfinal. I don't know if they can do that.
Yeah, not crossing over as they will, and we'll have a look at that at the end when we see the draw and see how we think it's going to play out.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right.
Next, I-Beam for 2025. Your alum club, Greeny, and a new look for I-Beam. With a couple of notable omissions. You obviously not playing for the first time ever for I-Beam in its entire history, which was 2009 I-Beam was founded?
2007. I did have a few Wombat campaigns where I played for the Wombats, but yeah, been playing since 2007, and the first Div 1 Nationals that I won't have played since 95. So yeah, it's a
30
long time.
years straight.
But I think they really will miss Grayson Haynes, who's moved over to Perth, Sammy Jacobs, who's just had a child, Bryce Winchester, who's had some Achilles issues. We had Henry Thomas last year, great handler. So yeah, we're missing. I say we.
It could be the royal we.
Some good players, but what we have. I was selector for this year, and we managed to get in our selection crew 4 rookies, and they're all young and they're all pretty keen, and they're doing well in the lead up tournament. So it's really great to see these guys earning their stripes.
And that's unheard of, right? Like Manly to roll in with like half a dozen rookies, that's just what they do. I-Beam to have more than one rookie is pretty rare. So perhaps a change in direction for the I-Beam club where they're looking to bring on young talent, new talent. And the four rookies, Adam Frendo,
Chris Kerr,
Jack Humphreys, and
Banjo
Olsen. Thank you. I was looking for them on there and I couldn't see them for the life of me. But, those 4 rookies, great. Bring them in. See if they can play. What's the worst that'll happen? You come last, that's fine. You can build on that, because next year you've had a good look at them. They've also had a year of top level ultimate experience. Just playing against some of these teams will take players to the new level simply by virtue of almost osmosis, where they're getting blown off the field and it's like, oh, I need to find a new gear here.
Yeah, totally. So, this is building year for next year for I-Beam. No doubt about it. New leadership too. Oh yeah, this is my man.
I like how you gave yourself credit at the bottom too. It's like me, Tim Lavis and Greeny.
Well, this is Tim Lavis and I drinking coffee after throwing at the beach and coming up with an idea and then me turning into a meme.
So tell us about it. It's Neo dodging bullets, and it's I-Beam dodging the bullets of 2022 and 2023.
From Div 2. So Div 2, so we have been dodging bullets for relegation to Div 2 and in a number of years recently. notably losing to Manly in the game to go in 2023, but then picking up the wild card. 2022 was, again, we had to go for wild card. So, it's been, and this year it was a bizarre three-way that I-Beam came out the right side of, and we've covered that in the regionals potty if you want to watch that. But, missing out there was crank in some pretty unusual circumstances. But, they came third at regionals, so, and then they win Canberra Cup.
Yep.
Okay. So, they're great. That's the first silverware for I-Beam since 2019 winning Gold Cup.
Yep.
So good on them. So they are well capable of causing upsets at nationals. But they do have the rough end of the draw, as we'll see. And
we're coming to that. Hold on. Here's another meme. This is David Beckham and Victoria Beckham. I don't know if you watched the Victoria Beckham special, but basically it's David Beckham saying, "Be honest," and Victoria is playing the role of I-Beam here, saying it's a rebuilding year. Bex is like, "Honest, we've got a long-term plan.
Be honest.
All our talented players are getting old, and we didn't bring on youngsters early enough. Thank you."
Yeah, and here I am making that sacrifice at 55, finally getting rid of me out of the team. And look, it is. I put my own hand up here in the club that we've had pretty much the same guys for a very long time. It has been hard to get into the team. So this is about regeneration, but it is true that we have not had good succession plans or.
Well, that's a challenge for every single club.
Well, it is. But here's the thing, Dan, right?
Yeah.
Newcastle, like Wollongong, are the only two clubs, and I'm talking about the men's and the women's, in Australia that frequent Div 1 that only have one university to draw from. Okay, every other team is drawing from at least 2 or 3 universities. In Melbourne, they'll get a talent pool of about 80 ready to go to sign up players that will filter through the main clubs. I was talking to Mish Phillips about that. That was in the women's, sorry. So 80 women get spread amongst.
Oh, no. Greeny died.
Nah.
Well, this is going to
blackout. So that's truth. We're being honest. Yeah. I-Beam needs to do better with their development.
Yeah,
but
and
we're one uni town.
Yeah, and the regional challenges or the location, the geographic challenge, or whatever you want to call it, is different for Newcastle. It's different for Wollongong, and it's different for even teams like Sunder and Ellipsis, because they're got to still find ways of bringing on players, and it's not something that any club has completely solved. And I think that just across sports as well, no team in sports has solved that equation of how do we bring a young, talented player and then turn him into a superstar, because you still see the hits and the misses there. So, predictions, Greeny, you were a bit kinder on the I-Beam boys than I was.
Yeah, I'm a bit more bolshy than you on that. I think they're going to I think they're in the pool of death, as we'll have a look at. But I think they'll come top of that pool. But you see they're going to cop a couple more losses.
Yeah, I think they are, and my vibes very bearish.
Yeah, sure.
That's terrible.
Patient bear.
I'm just I don't know. But could be wrong, because that prediction was made before they turned around and won Canberra Cup. So, the horses for courses and bears sitting at picnic tables, apparently.
Yeah. Patient bear.
Next, Sunder Dice.
Oh, Yeah.
Let's talk about these boys, because I actually think we need to start with the meme here and then go back to the roster,
Yeah.
because this was their season, right? They got
Yeah.
hammered with injuries.
Yeah. And I think that's a meme from Richo, I think. Oh, gee, I can't remember now. Actually, it might have been off the Fyshwick list. Can't remember, but I did pick that up. I thought that was very funny because it summed it up. They lost their captain, Dennis Strand, to a shocking ankle injury. Mark McClay, one of the fastest players in Australian Ultimate, he went down with a hamstring injury at training. And then at regionals, their captain goes down. Jimmy Todd Hill goes down with a broken thumb.
Yep.
And this happened to him last season. It seems like that Dice name it's a bit cursed. But, boy, they have brought it together just in the nick of time.
Well, tell us why their fortunes changed so much in the intervening weeks between, when we made these predictions and now.
Yeah, well, they were at regionals. They were so worried about the losses on Dice that they were going to bring some players across from Slice to just to help them out in numbers. But with Crank exiting stage left from Div 1,
not willingly either.
no, but because Goeies are going to Spain, playing Goannas, going to Spain playing in the under-24s there, they all wanted exposure to Div 1. And there were 4 of those, so they've picked up 4 players from Crank and also Kevin Dang, who wanted to play Div 1. Yep. They've all gone to Dice.
Which is a coup. That's...
Yeah.
Just have 5... four under 24s, which are, they're Div 1 caliber players. Yes, they're on the younger side, but they're still Div 1 caliber. Yeah. And then Kevin Dang, who is a Div 1 caliber player, and just a little bit older.
And just a little. Coup. I think a couple of them are blue bottles actually but they're all Div 1 ready. No doubt about it. So that all came together, and then I got Dennis Tran back. He's sort of handling a bit, so he's probably nursing it a bit. And Mark McClay, haven't seen Jimmy yet, but they played the Goanna Invite, just the most recent lead-in tournament.
Yep.
And they beat for the first time in the season. Well, certainly in the tournaments, they beat their Slice team.
Yep.
And got to the final. So their stocks are rising.
And I think we're coming to the first prediction that's very, very, very suspect. I think Greeny. I had him in 7th. You had them in 8th. I think this one's curdled already. I think this is more milk than wine, mate.
Well, hang on. You might have an old...
you wanted to switch him? Nah, come on, man. You can't switch him now.
No. I made this switch before. So I've got him coming in as 5th.
Okay.
So, yeah, I've got him as 5th.
So we'll run that one back.
We'll fix that up. But I see them.
Even still, I think 5th is. I just based on how their run up has been, the coup in getting those players from Crank. I think this is a semi-final team. And I think they'll be there at the end, and they're going to create problems because if they
do that, they've got to not come 4th in the pool, right? Which means they've got to get ahead of Hellcats, Wildcats, Chile, and Slice. Okay, so I'm seeing them coming in 4th there behind those guys, which gives them the Ellipsis matchup in the quarter.
Good luck. Yeah. Next, let's talk about the Wellington Wildcats. I had a chance to catch up a little bit with Nick Whitlock about these nerds, and it's basically the team who won Div 1 Nats, plus some extras from a team called Utakaro, in Wellington, which is a new team, I believe. I'm not sure if it's actually from Wellington, but they've basically got the best of that team plus the Wildcat regular suspects, and they're going to bring a team that is not going to be very familiar to a lot of people, and don't watch out. These I don't know what it is, but the Frisbee scene in New Zealand is smaller, and yet it regularly punches an equal footing, if not better than Australia.
Because if you take the analogy, that Auckland should be the powerhouse, right? But they're not. And so, it is pretty cool that they've built this power base there.
And it's been an ongoing thing, and with them coming across, it's going to give great experience. There's numerous young up and coming players in this Wildcats team, and Nick was talking really positive about what they're bringing across. He felt like they've got a really good team, and I mean, any team with Nicholas Whitlock is instantly better because he's the closest thing we've seen to Tom Regacki ever.
He's the Kiwi Tom Regacki.
He's the Kiwi Gack. And I called him that when he was about 18 or 19. And it's just turned out to be true. And he is a dominant force that is hard to stop. And, it's the Tom Regacki problem of how do you stop someone who's so tall, so long, and yet so athletic? It was a meme, and I think that them coming across, and we spoke about this a little bit, where you don't begrudge a team that adds to the tournament. If the NZ Wildcats were coming across and they were going to come last, we'd have a different feeling, but given this team and its historic strengths, what New Zealand has always done at Nationals, it feels like a value add where we're putting in another team that's going to vie for a semi-final spot.
Well, Dan, but if you take that a little bit further, not only do they come over and perform well, they perform well in wind. And the last time they got to the final was 2017. They lost double game point. They beat us in the semi. So they perform well in wind, and I think this is a factor as well. If you whip back to the roster for a sec.
Here it is.
So I watched the final against the punters, the Otago punters. Hard to gauge. You don't really know how good the punters were. I felt the punters really fell into the trap set to them by the Wildcats, their defence. What impressed was their D. Their match D is excellent. They sort of play a bit poachy, and it works really well. But I did feel like the Otago boys fell into that trap, and they kept three handlers back, all right, which is just death if you've got a team that's poachy. And, of course, they just were finding it really hard to make forward progress. But the Wildcats were also excellent on prediction and getting sort of predictive blocks from poachers. But really, Nick Whitlock, but the partner in crime there is Lockie Robinson, and he's often feeding it to Nick. And Lockie's got very good throws in the wind. So again, you think about if it's a wind game, how they're going to go. The other one is Tyler Hogg. So I think these guys, they're a deep team, no doubt about it. But those guys are really bringing the big plays, and they've been around for a long time. So yeah. All right.
this one was from you, Greeny. This meme.
Yes, it is. Again, this came out of, and I'll describe it, but this is a meme that came out of another coffee session with Tim Lavis. We're just talking about in Australia and just the teams and the composition of the teams going into the top 12 that arrive in Division 1 Nationals, how they qualify. And, it is pretty uneven at the moment.
Yep.
Because New Zealand have got a spot, guaranteed spot when they want it. And it's just decided by their FTA, and it's the winner of nationals usually. Okay, that's Wildcats. Northern, they've got a spot. And, that's always taken by Mammoth. Western, they've got a spot. And that is taken by Sublime at the moment. So it's all easy peasy. There's no fight in this. And then Southern has become really tame as well, and they're all kind of just shaking hands and,
And I got...
you go first, I'll go second, you go third, and I'll go fourth.
Yeah, and I got fact-checked, actually, about that. I thought there was only 4 teams that want to go. That was actually incorrect. There was 9. There was 9 teams that want to go. It just seems that there's this gap between the 4 that want to go and the other 5 that want to go. And that gap hasn't closed yet.
All right, and don't forget the AFDA decision to give South Australia their own spot as well.
Yeah, so South Australia's got a guaranteed bid, which leaves the southern region for 3, but the gap between Chile, Hoss, and Ellipsis to say your Craigieburn Pelicans or any of those, the Mudlarks, they're a great team, but they don't want to play Div 1.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the eastern region, we've got eye gouging and people choking each other.
It's a barroom brawl. and that is great for the game. You want to see people fighting their way through regionals.
You want to see that in every region, really, don't you?
Yeah, and this is what makes US such a powerhouse, that it is fighting all the way to the top, and that's what you want.
Next. Predictions. You like them for 3rd, Greeny?
Yeah, and this is based on wind. I did like what I saw in the final. It's a bit hard to gauge the level of competition that they're facing with Otago, so it's a little bit unknown still. But they certainly were minding the disc pretty well. They can get out of trouble, and I think that they'll do well in the wind. So that's why I've got them as 3rd.
Yeah, look, I want to tear up my predictions right now, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking. Might have been sleep deprived, because I've got them in 5th, and I'm like, no, I don't. Surely semis? Especially if it's windy, like you say, you've talked me around. I'm buying what you say, and I'm like, oh, maybe they are going to go a bit better than what I thought. But it's hard to say, because there's going to be a logjam in the quarterfinals, and if you tune into one game, probably tune into the quarters, because the fur will fly. Let's move along. Sublime out of the West. Interesting team that's coming along this year. A little bit new look, and they had a warm-up at March Madness that kind of got derailed by the Goey's invite, plus the Crocs camp, plus, and Sublime came across, and they went 0-4 there. They lost every game, and so their lead-up has not gone completely to plan. But they do have that ability to show up on the big stage, at least for short spurts. Sublime, historically, has ruined one top 4 team or top 6 team each year. Just seems to be what they do. They just show up. And your thoughts on this team, Greg?
Yeah, well, of course, I played for 4 years with these guys back in, and we got
Greeny. You can't claim that. Half of these dudes weren't even born then.
I know, I'm older than you. But it was still WA. I tell you, you still carry the chip on your shoulder.
You do. That's like, I've got a soft spot for Townsville, right? Because I played for the Townsvillans at Mixed Hats. And I was like, I love Townsville. Let's fucking go.
Yeah. But it's the chip on your shoulder about the eastern states.
It is.
It's CST.
Oh, the East Coast bias is real, right? Lived in South Australia for 10 years. Yep. Preach, brother.
And so to be in the most isolated city in the world and still bring it at nationals, and they do year on year, and that's what we love about Sublime. In this isolated town, they're still able to find competitive players, great athletes. So they will miss Ethan Fogan, who went to Chile, but most importantly, Monty Massare, who's not playing this year. But they've got, still got plenty of rep power. They've got, Radu Alexa is Reef Sharks this year.
I was going to mention Radu because he came up in the small amount of research that we did. We didn't do tons. We did a little bit, trying to be a little bit respectable. And Radu Alexa was mentioned as one to watch, a live wire that could bring playmaking ability.
Yeah, I expect him to be sort of like heart and soul of the team in a few years. Right now, he's just a tearaway. But he's definitely someone to watch. Another one, Gaben Iman. Yeah. He's 19. He's French, but he's currently working in Perth. And he's looking to try out for the French under-24 team. An awesome young player. I can't wait to see what they bring. And Jackson is captain, but they've got Kylo there, who's the oldest and longest running player, I think, and is part of the Crocs. Is one of the reserves there. So some good experience at the top. I'm excited to see how they go. They will struggle with that one warm up, and they certainly didn't set the place alight by going 0-4. But yeah,
I don't know. It seems like to be what they do every year. They just show up and they ruin someone. And like Sublime, I think that there's a bit of shock value. Like teams are like, oh, it's only Sublime. Their results last year were whatever. And it's like, yeah, but they're better than that. And if you let them into a game, right, you let them get a little bit of momentum, you will lose. That's just how it is. And keep that door shut, because you don't want to let that particular monster out, because Sublime, when they're rolling and they've got some momentum, that has historically been where they've played the best, and they have rolled teams. And
yeah,
your predictions here, Greeny, you think 10th, the run up not ideal, and the lack of depth.
Yeah, and just trying to get over the hump of that quarterfinal.
It's a lot.
It's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Getting into the quarters is going to be just the hard thing there.
And see, I this is probably more wishful thinking on my behalf. I think that they'll get to the quarters, but I don't know how. Like, don't ask me for like actually how that'll happen. I just think that they'll just be there.
No. I hope they do. I really do.
And that's what we wish for all the teams. We hope they all have a good tournament. And
yeah.
Next, Sunder Slice now, Greeny.
Yeah, they've looked good all season, haven't they? Pretty solid, except maybe the Goey's invite.
Well, that was the first sign of weakness, wasn't it?
Yeah. But really, this is, and again, when we talk about best players in Australia, and Alex Gann has got a claim to that title. I mean, it's a team sport.
Well, let's do the meme.
There's the meme, righto. And I'll explain this for people on the potty. I've got a photo here. Actually, it was a screenshot from the video of Australia versus GB in their 3-4 playoff at Worlds in the Gold Coast last year. And there was a classic moment where Gak just puts up a bomb, because he gets the disc and just fires it long. And underneath it, there's a pack. But emerging from that pack up in the sky was Rob Andrews and Sam McGuckin, both catching it at once, right? And they came down and they made the instant joke that, no, it was me, I caught it. And they're both holding onto the disc for dear life. So I thought that's really funny. But the subtext to that is, if you go as recently as 2022 for the Crocs, Rob Andrews, I think, was the best player at World Games, the single best player at World Games. He just dominated that tournament. He was unstoppable. Then he becomes captain of Dingoes for 24, this campaign. But through the whole season, he was sort of overshadowed he had a different role, but he was overshadowed by Sam McGuckin as that out-and-out receiver. And McGuckin's just gone to another level. He's just, at another couple of clicks an hour on his speed, and he's just he's really playing well. So I thought he actually outshone Rob at World. So that was the perfect setup. But in there, you've also got Alex Gann coming in to break up the party.
Well, that was part of the meme, was that these two are like pointing, going, I caught it. Alex Gann's also running over, pointing at himself. And
what about me?
It fits with the question of, well, who's the best in Australia right now? And splitting these three?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a podcast in itself. Like, you could have an epic just shit talk session over who's the best right now, because right now, awesome players. And coming back to Sunder Slice, Alex Gann leading the line. It's they look good.
He's really their playmaker, and I worry about teams who rely on a single playmaker, but he does seem to attract the disc every second pass and does seem to be making the punching forward throws.
And we talked about that, Greeny, where teams have drifted towards that archetype of having one player be really the focal point of an offense. Alex Ladamatos, Tom Tullett, these guys who, in the final were catching every second pass. And it seems to be the way that these teams have drifted and are finding success, especially at the top.
Yeah, and we've seen the connection between Alex Gann and James Bray Long is James Bray is one of these guys who times his cuts to the end zone perfectly for good throwers. He just lines them up and goes, this guy's going to send it to me, and he just finds himself in the right place. That's his magic power, and it's working. It has been working with Garnier, although he had a pretty rough one at the go. I think he was missing the Saturday, came on the Sunday, and didn't play that well. But forget that, he'll be fine for nationals. The other thing I like about Slice and Sunder in general, I think Sunder, we talked about it before, that they're going to struggle now. I don't think they have that same pulling power, the tractor beam, that they've had previously. And a sign of that is players who, like Dave Andrews, who played for Sunder but have returned to Manly. They haven't been able to just, by the nature of them being the best club in Sydney, retain those players. But what they've done, they've established this connection with Taiwan and Taiwanese players. And I think just like Chile have done with Mish Phillips connecting to the Tokyo Mavericks and learning from them. And this is the future for Sunder, in my opinion. They need to double down on this connection with Taiwan, but go over there and learn from them, improve their club and make it a sister club. And because what Mish has been able to do with Mavericks is exceptional. I think it's a really good blueprint to making Australian Ultimate better, but benefiting both clubs. So, I love that about Sunder Slice.
Yeah, and I want to go back to James Bray. I made a meme because, I don't know, he's different this year, Greeny. He's just different and he's scary. And, like, in past years, he was talking more. He wasn't talking very much at Gold Cup. And I was like, what's going on here? This is kind of freaky. And I don't know if it was like, I don't know what changed for James Bray, but it seemed like he's flipped a switch and he's gone like full Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator, come with me if you want to live kind of deal, where he's just locked in. And some of the effort I saw him putting in on the field was not the James Bray that we've known. And James Bray has always been a good motor, strong player, but
I think his motor was lacking early on in his career. I think he's really, I don't know if he's deliberately worked on that, but he's multiple efforts in points.
And the thing that I noticed at regionals was that he was making poorly timed cuts. And you've mentioned his timing, and I agree, he's got great timing normally. But the chemistry wasn't there with Gann at Gold Cup. it was not there. He was making like back-to-back cuts, and normally you'd see it come on the first. He's like 5, 6, 30, 40 meter efforts deep, and then he's getting the Frisbee, and I'm like, yo, this dude, if like he and Gan get on the same page, like I hope you're bulletproof because it's coming.
Yeah,
and
it may be his inclusion in the Crocs that's really fired him up for this season.
Yeah, and I think previously you would have thought, oh yeah, Sam McGuckin or Rob Andrews have it over James Bray. I'm not convinced, and I want to see the evidence from Nationals. I want to see the proof because I do think that matchup's going to happen. And Greeny, you reckon they're going to come second? They'll lose to Ellipsis in the final?
Yeah, that's where I've got them. They are, as we'll see in the pool structure of that. That's how I see it unwind. I don't think they are going to be. I think Ellipsis can just bring on lines that will just outmatch. They'll out-depth them.
Yep.
I think that'll be too much. And again, if I'm leaning on my win prediction, then Ellipsis will win that battle as well.
But they'll be there at the end of the day. I like them. My vibe, very bullish.
Very bullish, yeah.
I think I spend too much time on Reddit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they'll do it here. They'll beat Ellipsis in the final. Let's go to South Australia and Outbreak Mountain. The boys from the south coming across. And notable omissions, no Ferdy.
Oh, he's actually, I think he's coming back, Dan. So, yeah, he wasn't announced in the team.
And that's what I heard.
He was going to have a break. And we talked about when we did our women's potty, a lot of players who had big seasons in 24 having a rest in 25. So he was going to coach the Div 2 team. But I think they had a couple of practices side by side with the Div 1s, and he was just getting FOMO. So he sort of decided to come back into the fold. And they get him back.
Ferdy Ramadan is the best player to come out of South Australia since Brett Middleton.
Right, okay. There's a call. Brady, great player, and obviously Joel Pillow if we were just looking at the men.
Yeah.
I
challenge you. Find another one. Find someone who's better than Ferdy since Brett Middleton. I can't think of anyone.
He's an exceptional athlete, that's for sure.
Crazy. Like, he burst onto the scene and it was like, who's this Ferdy kid? And he just kept getting better. And it was like he had no ceiling. He just kept getting better and better, and he was making plays and he was doing shit. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. Those plays are the plays of someone who could represent Australia. And then he did. Like, he got picked, and rightfully so, because kids are talent. And will be a big in for Outbreak. But one player a Frisbee team does not make.
Yeah. Because they have lost 7 players to Melbourne and 1 to Manly. That is, and they're all including key handlers and receivers. So that is, how can you possibly counter for that? And they've brought a lot of players up from Div 2. They've brought players in who have played previously and were playing Div 2 and need you back.
First, Andy Baddock's back in the team in 5 years or something. So
and playing well.
Credit to Baddock's. Great clubman. You'd love to have him on your team. And I've been a bit critical of Andy in the past, and I want to recount all of that and apologise. Andy, I was fucking wrong. You're a champion. Yeah. Keep up the great work, and have a brilliant time at Div 1, mate, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you did. It matters what you're doing. And Andy, I think, is starting to, an outbreak of trying to build this club of effort and commitment. And Andy is almost the personification of that. Andy's physically, his best days are behind him because he used to be a weapon. But he's getting older, like we all are. He's not as fast as what he was, but his commitment and his drive is still there. And I think, some of these younger lads, like we got Oscar Turnbull, second generation Frisbee player. I love that. He's going to come in and he's going to see, some of the older statesmen in Andy Baddock's, Brett Middleton, and he's going to see that that pattern being put down, and that's who he's going to be like, because that's who he trains with, and that's who is around the club.
And Brett is going to be captain this year, and you've got they've got two lines, right? So X and Y, they're going to play OD, and Sean Davis, who's been a star for a long time on their team now, and Oscar are the leaders of one of those lines, and then John O'Brill and John O'Perkins are the leader on the other. So, I'm excited for Oscar. I've got big raps on him. He made, as he should have, he made the Goannas, and I think that's a great addition for them. I think he's going to be a great player for South Australia and Outbreak, and I really hope he does well under 24s, as well as Dan Roberts, another one. So I really wish them luck, but they're
up against it.
I mean, you're up against it when you lose 7 top line players. Yeah. Wow.
Let's do the memes. It's Sunder Dice filling out the wildcard application form to get in, and it's Outbreak standing there on the gallows saying first time.
I think I got that from Outbreak.
They love it. Outbreak. They love it. And meanwhile, we got a GIF, and it's poor Crank looking over to say what the fuck, and there's Outbreak having the best time in the world because they just kind of skate in because they got the guaranteed bid, and yeehaw, it's another year for them.
Which is why that matchup of Outbreak and Crank at Canberra Cup was so important for those clubs. Yeah. And Crank took that one out. Yeah. So they got a little bit of moral victory there as they head down to Div 2 and try and reclaim the wild card for Easterns.
We agreed. We both think it's going to be a rough year for them and that they'll come 12th. Greeny, I don't think there's... Just given how many players they'll have lost, given the fact that they've struggled to crack into that quarterfinal bracket, I don't know. It might end up being I-Beam v Outbreak for last place, but it could also be 2 other completely different teams, and I-Beam and Outbreak not to be seen. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Again, I wish them all the best of luck. I love that the guys they're such a great bunch. I'd love to see them do well.
Next, let's move on to Juggernaut and the team that they're going to be bringing. I think really we just need to start with the beam, and it seems like Juggernaut is copying the homework from I-Beam of 2010. I don't know why I've typed Juggernaut 2024. Because it's 2025. I fucked that up. So
maybe they did their swatting last year. Who knows?
Well, I imagine that the team's got picked, but it's a short roster and it's all the usual suspects from heads of state. I didn't do it, and I probably should have. But if you compared this lineup with a lineup from say 2019, I don't think that there's too many differences between them. Like. Chris Calibiotis, Jake Wilson, Carlip Liu, Lockie McDonald, Mikey Trung, Per Hendrickson, Seb Barr, Thomas Della, and T-Cass, Tony Castriano, and also Wilson Tran. They have been in and around the Juggernaut team forever, I think. After they rebranded from Heads of State into Juggernaut. Like, it's been those dudes.
Yeah, I think from last year they'll miss Dylan Taylor, who was their spirit captain last year, but he was the soul of the team. And you've heard me talk about this, Dan, when you've got players that sort of somehow are the soul of the team and they're a bit of a touchstone. And Dylan was that player. They'll miss him. they'll miss. They had Ben Powell, he's out. Ferdy is out. Leo Dykes. Pat Thorpe has gone back to the Muddies. He could have been really useful for them if it is windy. Sam Lee, Tiernan Summers. So they've lost a lot. But as you say, they have. But the big difference that I see, yes, they've got the older players, but they're all on the D line.
Yep.
So their D line's got the likes of T. Cass, Toffa, Seb Barr, and Della. I'm throwing Della now under the bus as an old guy.
Well, he is. He's a veteran now. You know.
Yeah, well, he was coaching the veterans last year. Yeah, our Masters team. But anyway, so they've got a different look, and their stated intent, or at least what I've picked up, is that they wanted to play more of a small ball game, and they've got like the likes of Tronga, Rowan, Per, Caleb, Hamish, Jake, these guys who can just move the disc well and sort of a handler-led sort of offense. But the funny thing is when you watch them play, the games that I've been able to watch them play, they still fire it around for 3 or 4 passes and then bomb it.
Yep.
You know, so that side of it doesn't seem to have changed. Yeah, they still get to about halfway and look for the end zone. And Lockie Eichner from, again, another one from Outbreak, has been very good for them in terms of, being a deep threat.
And we'll see if it can work for them. They've had some good results so far. And I think they'll probably have the I-Beam problem, which was that I-Beam were very consistent, yes, but they also struggled to get over the top, and find that extra spark that took them to the higher levels of the tournament. I-Beam relied very heavily on short rosters and a very condensed kind of playing core. And as a result, they'd always be in the game, but they never found the way to get over the hump and get those upsets. So I don't know. That's my feeling about Juggernaut. I think they're going to come 10th.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, there's a fair bit of difference there.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you reckon? Milk or wine?
I think, again, have a look how it shakes out.
Yeah.
We'll have a look at how it shakes out in the results. But, that's interesting. I mean, I don't think we've seen the best of him yet, but they did bring March Madness. They had the closest to a complete team out of any of those teams. And they were I'm sure they were missing too many from the Goeys invite either. So, yeah. Let's see.
All right. So for those listening at home, I think they're going to come 10th. Greeny has picked them for 7th. And we'll have to see how those predictions age. Like I said, I feel like I want to just tear mine up at this stage. I think I've made an absolute hash of it. Let's move it right along to Hot Chili. And out of Melbourne, I think probably the big changes here is that it's not been organic talent. It's been free agent movement, shall we say? With James Osman and also Mark Evans coming into this Hot Chili team. Tom Regatti.
Yes, and he's not on that. He's not listed there.
No, he's not. He's stealthing in. He's been like the stealth pick. But that team, Tom Regatti, can he just stop? Can he go retire or something? Because every year it's like Chili bust out old reliable and it's Tom Regatti. And Tom, by himself, he's worth quarterfinals. It feels, you could put Tom out there with a bunch of absolute newbies and he'd find a way to make the quarters. And then you add in someone like Mark Evans. I think it's going to, I hope, and this is me as a coach, I'm thinking, okay, how would you make that work? I feel like Mark Evans, you try and get them to work together. And it is a little bit of two lions trying to live on the same mountainside because they are both really dominant players. But if you can get them to work together, have them take pressure off each other,
Yeah,
Recipe
but
for
I think
success.
what you're going to find is you'll have Tom on the D line, and you'll have Mark Evans on the O line, and they're the two of the best into the breeze throwers. You know, I'm also including Johnny Mack there.
Yep.
That Australia's ever produced. So if it is windy, you got those guys throwing it. They've got a lot of tall timber. I think they're going to be in good stead if it's windy, and I'm basing my predictions on wind in the tough games. I think sure you're going to get mornings with no wind, but it'll pick up in the afternoon, and that's when the tough games are. So I'm seeing those got Chile doing quite well.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together for Mark Evans. Who I love this. He wanted to go play with his brother.
Yeah, David Evans.
Love that.
You know? Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I think Mark's probably wondering how many years he's got left. He was supposed to play with us at Wombats, but he was coming back from a thumb surgery, and
yep.
It's been a tough road. And he's also put so many miles in playing.
And Mark Evans' story is one of those great stories in Ultimate Frisbee, and love to tell it one day. I don't know how he feels about his story, but I think that his story is one of triumph and of rising above hardship. I think that Mark, the way it all started and where it fetched up, beautiful. Like the kind of story that you could make that into a Disney movie, you know, up there with the Mighty Ducks kind of stuff. How Mark's career has played out. So hopefully we get to tell that story one day. If you're interested in, you know, these kind of stories of these players, let us know, because maybe we'd spend some time talking about the legends of the game.
Bring him on. We'll unpick it.
I don't know if he'd be keen or not. We both like him for fourth. We think they'll get the quarters, they'll win their quarter, they'll get to the semi, and then that's where they'll stop.
Yeah. So that the big game is Chile versus Sunder Dice, and you know how they finish up in that pool. But I think so. You got Max Miller and Reggie Turner. I'm my hot tip for Reggie Turner. Dingo's 2028.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Hot take already.
He's. I like the cut of his jib, and he's a great competitor. He's very fast. He's an exceptional read of the disc, and he's good. He's good on D, good on O, and he's going to be really good for Chile. Tom's going to be bombing to him, no doubt. I see, and they've got, they've picked up. Pat Christie's been good for them. He came over again from Outbreak. He's been doing a job. And Ethan Foggen, although he did pick up a calf strain I think it was the March Madness. So I'm sure he'll be all right for Nationals. But, yeah, if it's windy, I think Chile loves a barroom brawl. They've got the height, and they've got those two amazing throwers on the O and the D line.
Next, let's talk about Mammoth out of the north. It's been a mixed bag for them rolling into this season, Greeny. Hard to really gauge them. I thought, it's not really gone to plan. It's they only had the one hit out to Gold Cup, and then what was it, Cyclone Alfred? Or Albert, or whatever it was, the one that took a detour. And then eventually made landfall. That one also affected their run-up in that they couldn't leave Queensland because they were, they had a cyclone roll through. It's been it's hard to pick, I think, for them. And
we saw them at Gold Cup, which is the only time they've had a pre-tour, as you said. The first thing we noticed, which was interesting, is that it was clear that they had been training amongst themselves, but not at the same intensity of a tournament, and they were leaving froze short of their players and getting D'd, and it was like a surprise.
Yeah.
And the meme that Dan's put up, okay, I'm in a fight. This is Mammoth Gold Cup. Damn, the New South Wales got hands,
I thought it was appropriate because it looked like they got a little bit caught out in the intensity.
A little bit caught out. But remember when we saw them against Manly, we were really impressed by some of their athleticism. And when you got players like Liam Grimmin in there who can just throw it everywhere. Scott Perry, since, he had a great Worlds campaign, but he's gone up another level, I think.
Yeah, and I think a part of the problem at Gold Cup was Scott Perry was not on his game. He didn't seem like he was in form whatsoever. It looked like he just looked like a different dude. And like when the way play, like the players seem to mold around each other, the good players take up space. And you expect good players to make certain plays. And when you're on a team with a good player, and I'm talking as a mediocre player, you're almost playing off them. Where it's like, okay, I know that Greeny's going to get the disc. I just need to be making the cut based on that. I know Tim Lavis is going to get the block. I just need to play off that. When Tim Lavis doesn't make the block, or when Greeny doesn't get the disc, all of a sudden, me as the mediocre player, I'm like, well, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah.
And it seemed, I don't know if it was, but it seemed like that, where they got a little bit lost. Like, the big players weren't making the plays that they have, and so they had to go to plan B, but plan B has never been considered. And I don't know, I was like, I don't feel like this is a fair representation of Mammoth Gold Cup, and I felt like they had heaps more, but I just didn't see it.
Yeah, and maybe we'll see that in that. So, like I said, I think they were a bit caught out by going just from training and playing amongst themselves and playing against the Brisbaneites, and then, turning up and playing Div 1 and having that difference. They're going to miss Elliot Cook. They are going to really miss Zach Chados. Now, he's coaching them, but he was playing last year. He's obviously Barramundi's handler. They will definitely miss those guys. Sam Gaunt, that's another big loss from the receiving space. So, but I expect players. Alex Leask, smartest player in Queensland men's ultimate. He'll and between him and Grimo, they'll keep it together. And they'll put up a good show. And how we have them?
Yeah, well, your prediction here, Greeny?
Yeah, is 11th. So, I see them in that battle from 9 to 12.
And I picked them at 9th. And there's just that logjam in the quarters. Who's going to make it? Like, I didn't see them making it. I thought maybe if it comes down to it, Mammoth over Sublime or Sublime over Mammoth, and maybe that's where one or, Manly get over Mammoth. I just didn't see Mammoth beating any of the teams that I've kind of got in that 5 to 8. And that's not to say that they can't, because, maybe they can. I feel like they had heaps more to give, and they haven't hit ramming speed yet.
Yeah.
They're still building up. But they can't save it for next season. They need to get a wriggle on and make sure they bank a good result here. So that leaves the last team, Fyshwick United, out of Canberra. I just want them to win something, John.
Yeah.
I'm such a Fyshwick fan. I don't know what it is. I feel like this is the year. For those playing the home game, you may have noticed where the gap is on the predictions. And I think, for Fyshwick, this could be their year. I feel that they have a window that is closing, and that window is Andrew Jackson. The fire is burning really, really bright, but he's in his mid-30s. He can't sustain that for much longer. I've seen him fired up. This is AJ at that level or better. And we saw him make some plays, and he is talismanic for Fyshwick United. This could be their chance to get some silverware for AJ.
Yeah, it does. I think he's still got seasons. The thing I've learned about AJ, he does like to push up. So, because I was telling him he should really play Wombats and, come on, man, you're old enough now. And because you try to get these guys in early to the Masters levels, but they want to hang on. And here's me talking. And I told their coach, Dave McManus, I told him that he's going to be defined. This season's going to be defined. I didn't say anything about silverware, but how he integrates Connor McHale into the team. So, yeah, Connor McHale, one of the best players from Europe and in the GB team and playing for Clapham, coming over just for the week, though. No lead in, just, bolt him straight in to nationals. So how pivotal is that? How well he can play for them, and does he inspire the troops? Or does he let them down? This is. I'm putting this all on to Dave, because I love him. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
And I mean,
I think that the problem, and we've talked before about this, Dan, of having a single playmaker, and at the moment, we had to see what happens with Colin McHale, but AJ is left to do all the playmaking.
And it's not enough.
And also the thing about AJ, he is an exceptional player. I mean, he is really, really good. And as you say, he's on fire this season. He's got a point to prove after missing Barramundi's last season, which I think he should have been on there. But anyway. But he doesn't, if it is windy, he doesn't have the best wind throws. Okay? He's got a good eye for the end zone, and he's got in good conditions. He can definitely nail it. But I worry about his ability into the breeze really penetrating.
Yep. And I've got a hot take about this team, right? I think they need to bump Manambi Weir into that central primary handler role and bump Alex Young out. I think that if Fyshwick are going to have success, they need to take some chances. And I think Manambi Weir is one of those chances that you take. And I think that Cal Sandbridge and Sam Shellard on defense, they need to come ready to play. They need to strap their boots up, pull the laces tight, and get ready to ball. Because if they can, the playmaking ability of this team is significant, and their ability to convert is significant. On paper, is it good enough to match it with Ellipsis? Debatable. Maybe not quite. But on the day, they could get it done. Same with Slice. They do match up well. They might not have the recognised names and, the three players that are popping up in Who's the Best Player in Australia meme, but I like them, and I think that if they're bold and they take a few chances, they've got the players to get this done. And they just haven't shown it, have they, really? The meme of looking at their results from New South Wales regionals was just pain. It was pain. They beat both Sunders, and then on Sunday turned around and lost every game. And as a fan, I was like, come on, boys. Seriously. Can't do this to me.
Well, and if we say regionals, Saturday was still Sunday, it was windy. Win all three games Saturday, lose all three Sunday. That's something. But, of course, that pain was really felt by Fyshwick at Canberra Cup, losing to I-Beam in the final, their one chance without Sunder to get the title of their own tournament. That would sting, But just to finish off, Mambo, yeah, I agree. Him having a bigger role is great. Young, look, AJ can unlock him. They do work well together. I Young I really like him as a player, but he does lack creativity in his throws. He's 100% guy, right? He wants to just.
And I feel like the 100% guy is normally the guy you want, but I think for this team and where they're at, I think they need the creative guy. I think they need the guy that sees the game a little bit different, and that's Manambi Weir. Like, we saw him make some throws, and I was like, damn, that's crafty, man. Like, that's creating some attack. And like, on the national stage, if you come predictable, you're going to run into the teeth of the defense, and you better come as Mike Tyson, ready to punch teeth out, or have a way of going around that. And Manambi Weir, that's why I'm thinking Manambi Weir could go around that rather than getting into, let's just stand and try and punch each other in the face, Sunder Ellipsis style. Play your game. Maybe you get another scout. The predictions, you felt fifth for Fyshwick United.
Yeah, I think again, leaning into the wind, they're not a win team. I think they'll struggle there. They are so hot and cold. I love these guys, but they are incredibly hot and cold, and we just have no idea what the effect of bringing in a whale like Connor McHale is going to have on them. It may have no effect. It may boost them. It may drop them.
My prediction might be a bit of wishful thinking in predicting that Fyshwick will come second, but I don't know. They look good. I feel they have the ability to go deep. Look, if they crash out in the quarters, that's probably where they were going to fetch up. But maybe on the day they can go that one game further. Maybe they can even go 2 games further and make it all the way to the finals. They have the players.
Well, yeah. And let's not forget here, Dan, that I've got the Sunder Dice actually coming 5th. And that pushes those teams down. So I've actually got Dice 5th, Fyshwick 6th, Manly 7th, Juggers 8th.
Yep.
Yeah. So them all making the quarters, but Dice winning the 5 to 8. Being winning the 9 to 12.
Well,
let's have a look.
Yeah, the potential draw, Greeny. We've got
this is the draw now.
Oh, it is. Yeah, that's right. You got the draw, and we've wound up. It's exactly what you thought it was going to be. So,
well, the keys were that Wildcats were going to get, according to the policy, if they followed their policy, Wildcats were going to take 6th, with Hoss 5th. So that worked out. And then with a simple snake, that's the pools you end up with. I actually don't like. I'm like Dave O'Brien. I think you don't want a simple snake. You want to end up with the quarters being 1v8 and 2v7 and things like that. But this is what they've gone with. They're sticking with the Old Faithful. But what it does mean, a couple of things. I think, again, it's a little bit curious I think that they could have changed Dice and Slice, not have him in the same pool. I think
it's murder.
I totally trust Sunder, right? But it does add that element of conflict of interest, potentially. If Dice lose both their games on the first day and then they play Slice and Slice has won their games and Slice realises to get our brethren through, we need to lose to Dice.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't think that's going to happen, but that AFTA could have avoided that, by just putting him in another pool. But anyway,
it has created a pool of death in Pool B.
It has.
Notionally, we've got Slice, Chili, Wildcats, and Sunder Dice, all of which are potentially semi-final teams. And all 4 of them are in pool 6. Good luck, Outbreak and I-Beam. Sucks to be you, because yikes.
Yeah, this is a really bad one for Newcastle and Adelaide for sure. So you can see my pool play predictions there. So Ellipsis coming out, Fyshwick ahead of Manly, and then Hoss. That's, big call, but we'll see. That there's probably 3 ways in that amongst those teams. But, if Ellipsis can get through pretty unscathed from Pool A with their good players intact, they are going to be so hard to stop in the second half of the tournament.
Yep.
And then on the other side, I see Dice getting that important fourth spot. But of course, B4 only gets you a quarter destiny with Ellipsis, right?
Yeah.
So, in fact, I reckon the big game that I'm going to make sure that UltiTV hopefully we can cover it, is Dice and Chile in the rounds. Of course, we still don't know what Wildcats, but Dice and Chile, that's going to be a big matchup because you don't want, if you are in the quarters, you don't want the Ellipsis matchup. But I see out of those quarters, Slice and Chile getting through. So Chile would play Fyshwick, and I see them being a better win team, so getting over Fyshwick, so ending up in the semis. Ellipsis, and then Wildcats taking out Manly again. They're both very good teams and both good teams in the wind. But Wildcats are like Ellipsis light, in my opinion. They've got some awesome players, but not as many as Ellipsis, and Ellipsis can cover them. So as good as Nick Whitlock is, he's going to be coming up against Sam McGuckin. Boom, cancelled out. And then, so Ellipsis taking out, they've kept their best players fresh, doing a number on Slice.
Yep.
Wildcats probably got enough depth. I think depth is going to be the thing. And to be honest, Chile have not shown much fight through any of the pre-tournaments. That said, they've missed key players like Gak and Lippy through those periods, but really they haven't shown a lot. So I'm worried about their depth, in the big games.
Something interesting, Nick Whitlock coming across, potentially best Kiwi player at the moment. Chance for him to clap some Aussie nerds and give them the clamps.
Have a look at Nick Whitlock. He, apart from coming over and playing with his own team, he picks up with Ellipsis in 2022 and loses by 1 point to Sunder, right? Then plays Sunder and loses to Ellipsis. So that is weird. Now he's like, well, bugger this. I'm bringing my team over. We're going to take you boys with the Wildcats.
Which, either way, for kind of New Zealand and their development as well, like, as we lead into, potentially future Worlds tournaments, they're going to get to play the best that Australia has to offer. And, seeing that familiarity and also having a chance to measure yourself against them can only be a good thing. So 2024 results on the screen. Ellipsis Sunder Slice, that was 1-2. Hot Chili came third. Fyshwick United fourth. And I think that actually, now I'm thinking about it, I think that's where my second prediction came from, where I was like, hey, they come fourth last year. Maybe they can go one better. And I don't know. Maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
I actually think Fyshwick's team is better than it was last year.
Well, I felt that way. But, I mean, my predictions, man, like, that logjam in the quarters is immense. I don't think we've had a closer quarterfinal reach in the men's because everyone from about third to even maybe ninth is capable of a semi-final and maybe even winning a semi-final with some things going their way. Like, you think Manly, Wildcats, Sunder Dice, Sublime, Mammoth, Chile and Ellipsis, well, I picked Ellipsis, but maybe Fyshwick. Like, there's 7 teams that all could get to the pointy end of the tournament. And as it reaches the knockout stages, victories are going to be hard to come by. You're going to have to fight for everyone.
Yeah, that's right. And they could be barroom brawls, like fighting through breezes, multiple turnovers, who knows? I am leaning into the win now. I'm really setting this up for a win-free tournament, aren't I?
Yeah. You are. You've cursed it, and I love that. That's part of our role, is to say one thing and for it to be completely wrong. I
think that makes a good podcast, because at least if nothing else, people will talk about, hey, did you hear about how wrong Dan and Greeny got this? Part of the fun. Greeny, as we wrap this thing up, it's been a monster. We've been here for over an hour and nearly 40 minutes. Your closing thoughts on this Nationals, mate?
Well, I think it's a milestone tournament. It's back in Adelaide. 15 years. There's and you're bookending some regimes. You're bookending the run of I-Beam and really the run of those older players on Hoss. How many more years have they got in them? The run of and the change from Colony and Colony's, the start of Colony's dominance to this day, and now that seems to be under threat, obviously from Ellipsis, the rise of Ellipsis. So, great storylines. I'm stoked for Mike and UltiTV to get the contract again, and for us to be able to show this to the world. I just think it's going to be a grand time, my friend.
I do too. And for everyone who's tuned in, please make your own predictions. Love to hear what people think is going to happen, because at the end of the day, it's all guess, isn't it, really? All these teams, and it's great that we can't predict it, I think. I think that's one of the best things about our sport. Yeah, okay, Ellipsis and Sunder Slice, they're going to be up the top somewhere. That's pretty predictable. But as for the rest of it, it is wide open, and there's a new chapter to be written here, and it's going to be a great tournament. If you are anywhere near Adelaide, swing on by West Beach on the weekend of the tournament. It's Anzac Day weekend, I believe it starts on the 25th? 24th.
24th to 27th, is that right?
Yep, so 24th to the 27th of April at West Beach in Adelaide. If you can't, and you happen to be working or just not living in South Australia, tune in on UltiTV. They'll be covering not all the games, but as many as they can. And so you'll get to see a lot of the action. And Greeny, are you going to head to Div 1 Nats?
I am, yeah. It's a late call-up. They've brought on the reserve bench. But, yeah, I think that the plan is to try and cover have two streams going. Wow. This is another development. So 2 streams going at once. So 2 commentary teams. So I might be on one of those. We'll see.
Well, look forward to hearing your dulcet tones on the commentary, Greeny. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Make sure you subscribe and you like the podcast. If you enjoy hearing Greeny and I sit here and talk the shits for, an hour and 42 minutes. We scheduled this for an hour, so we've done a really poor job at that. But we hope you...
There's always editing.
I'm not going to. I'm just going to let it go, let it ride in all its glory. Because I think that there's a lot there that people could take away. And, skip through it. If you get to a team that you...
Find your own team and check out what we said about you.
Because we hope we've given you some information about each of the teams, like what our view is as, 2 professional pundits. Not professional, we're not paid, but we like to think we're good at what we do.
Somewhat.
Well, we'll leave it there. Everyone, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.